Shalom and good day all, this is Healing29 back again for some indie comic reviews, and in these indie comic reviews I'll be covering Defenders of the Earth, Issue 4, Dark Destiny, so Volume 2, Issue 4, by Dan Didio, followed by The Flash, Issue 0, by, of course, Dan Abnett, who has actually given us some really amazing stories, especially in relation to Aquaman, if you've read any of his content. And I do highly recommend that you do check out his Aquaman run. So let's get things organized for the first one I will be reviewing. So first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something inside with the story? It certainly does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area of the internal art, as we have a look around the beginning, the middle, and of course the end, and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as the story begins, we are on the area of Mungo, but of course we do get our cast of characters who will be making an appearance in this. And I really do like how they've actually done that with the story, as it makes you remember who the characters are. As we look a little bit further around the beginning of the story, we get to see some things that are occurring. Of course, we get to see Mandrake as well as the Phantom up against a villain here. Of course, we get some time later towards the end, to which there's a bit of a confrontation with Ming the Merciless. And last but not least, towards the end, for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area of the story racing, which consists of time, location, and cast. First things first, do we get anything time-wise? You bet we do, to which we have some time later, and also days later being used. The locations that we got to see within the story were Ming's Palace, as well as Mongo. Last but not least, the cast of characters consisting of Flash Gordon, Mandrake, Phantom, Lothar, Alj, Kashin, Jeddah, Ming the Merciless, Viok, of course Dale Arden, Court, Zufi, Kurt, and Crotan. My overall rating for this story is a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into Dan Abnett's Flash Gordon. So as we move into issue 0, because that's what this is, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something inside with the story? It certainly does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area of the internal art, as we have a look around the beginning, the middle, and of course the end, and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as we move into the beginning of the story, we do get to follow some of the events that have taken place with the character of Flash Gordon himself. We do learn that it takes place after what has recently happened on Mongo, but also with someone who is basically taking photos of him. I suspect it's Dale Arden, like an early Dale Arden in this story run. As the story advances, we get to see Flash Gordon take basically his class to an area known as Thalassa. And last but not least, towards the end, for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area of the story rating. So first things first, did we get anything time-wise? We certainly did, to which we had 38 minutes later. Next is the locations that were mentioned or ended up going to in the story. So we had Earth, Mongo, as well as Thalassa. Next is the cast of characters consisting of Flash Gordon, Dale Arden, Hans, I'll just say, and of course one of the directors within the story, so like a director of a mission. My overall rating for this story is a 6.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.